Hi everyone, welcome to Lisa's Stamp Studio. Over the next couple weeks, I'm going to teach you variations in a corner pop-down card. You may know it as a corner pop-up card, but it's basically the same card. I'm going to give you a good close-up when we get over to the stamp table, but this card actually holds a gift card as well as a note. It may look confusing to put together, but it's really quite easy. You'll be able to find still photographs, a list of supplies, and cutting dimensions for all the pieces over on today's blog post. If you're here from YouTube, you can click on the I button here on the screen, which will navigate you right to today's blog post. Or you can click on the description bar below and the link will be there for you. Let's head over to the stamp table and let's get started on today's project. Here is the front of this card. Isn't that elf adorable? Big shout out to my friend Michelle Sweet for the cover of this card. I cased the actual image from something that she created. I could not resist the way it was colored. And the inside, are you ready? Okay, that corner is going to pop down and out. And inside we've got a fun little pocket that's going to hold a gift card holder as well as a note. Let's get started by putting it together. This is a piece of Whisper White cardstock. I've cut this 8 by 8 for the base of this card, and I'm going to be using the Stampin' Trimmer with the scoring blade, which is the light blade. The dark blade on the trimmer is for cutting. We're going to start by making 4 equal sections. So I'm going to score at 4 inch, right down the center, and then I'm going to turn. I'm going to score at 4 inch in the other direction. So now we've got 4 equal quadrants to the card. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to score it on the diagonal. So I've got the top here inside the cutting track and the bottom tip here inside the cutting track. And then I'm going to lower the arm and I'm just going to run the score blade all the way across. I'm going to use my bone folder to fold up on those score lines. So these are the 2 in the opposite directions, making those 4 sections. And then the score lines diagonally are going to come up. So I've got one here, and I've got another here. And I'm going to go ahead and use my bone folder on those as well. You can already see it starting to take shape. So let me show you how this is going to go. Do you see how this is starting to close? Where the pleated sides are going to come together, which creates the pocket. Now, this diagonal line is only important so that it can actually close. It's actually going to be hidden by a panel when we finish the card. All right, so let's start by decorating the front. So we're going to keep the fold at the top. Just to reinforce it, I'm going to go back over it with my bone folder. So I've cut a piece of designer series paper. This is from Merry Little Christmas. Old olive and basic black, and there's loads of different designs, a lot of which we're going to use today on the card. So I'm going to add this to a panel of basic black cardstock. Again, remember I've put all the cutting dimensions for everything over on my blog post. You can click in the description bar below the video. It'll take you right there, or on the information button here at the top of the screen. So that's going to go right here down the front of the card. So I'm going to go ahead and just adhere that. Placing my snail adhesive on the back. Remember the way it's going to open. It's going to pop up this way. So it's going to go here at the top where all the creases are. So I'm just going to center that the very best that I can. All right. Next, I've cut myself a piece of Whisper White cardstock, and this is where I'm going to stamp my image. This adorable elf comes from the stamp set called Festive Phrases. I am having a ball with this, and I think it's a set that's going to work well throughout the year because you can use this for a wedding or an anniversary card. Of course, we've got Christmas and Halloween included as well. So I'm using basic black archival ink because I'm going to color him in. I'm going to ink up my image, and he's going to get stamped right here in the center of the panel. Lots of firm, even pressure to make sure you trace out the design of that image. Black archival ink takes a little bit longer to dry than the other ink pads, so I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to begin to work on some of the other pieces of my card. On a scrap piece of Whisper White cardstock, I'm going to be stamping Special Delivery from the North Pole. And this is from Merry Little Labels. I actually have it in wood mount. Again, another really versatile set. This just for you can be used all year round. And the other pieces are just great for the holidays. Wonderful tags, and it coordinates with the Everyday Tag Punch. Another great bundle in the catalog. Again, with my basic black ink, I'm sticking to a very simple color concept for this card, just to coordinate with my designer series paper. I'm going to lay that to the side as well. So I've got one more piece of Whisper White. I'm going to go ahead and use that image in the Old Olive ink, and I'm going to stamp that all the way over to the right side of the card. I want this to be visible from the pocket that holds the gift card. We're back here to our image, and I've taken out a couple markers to do some coloring. I'm going to start with my lightest color first, which is the Blushing Bride. I'm going to color in his ears and his fingers. I'm going to switch over now to the Old Olive, which is what I'm going to be using for his hat. And for some of the stripes inside his pants, I've chosen Real Red to do the other striped area inside his little leggings, and I'm going to fill in his shoes. Basic black will be used for his hair. Crushed curry is going to be used for the small little bell on the top of his hat and the ones on top of the shoes. And then finally, I'm going to use crumb cake to give him a little bit of a floor underneath his feet so he doesn't look like he's just floating. This image now is going to get layered on Old Olive cardstock, so we're going to add some adhesive to the back. And I'm going to leave a little bit of a border on each side of my image. And I'm going to layer it one more time on a piece of basic black. Again, leaving a small border on either side. This image I'm going to actually mount it to the top of the card with dimensionals. I'm going to go ahead and put one each of my four corners and one in the center. In case I'm mailing it, I want to make sure that it doesn't sag as it goes through the mail meter. And I'm taking off that paper backing. If you're having trouble like I do, go ahead and press your fingers inside the paper backing. That'll help lift the edges for you. And then here is the front of my card, again with our folded creases at the top. And then our image will get centered right on here. Keeping in mind now that this is actually going to create our pocket here. So we've got a panel here on the left side, and this is where I'm going to add some designer paper. Same series. Isn't this fun? Merry Little Christmas. And that's going to get mounted here on the inside panel. Looking to keep a small border all the way around. To finish decorating that panel, remember this piece that we stamped? We're actually going to die cut that using the layering ovals. I'm a big fan of my magnetic platform when I'm using my framelits, just to make sure they don't slip. And I'm going to put a clear mat on the bottom to protect that. So I've got my Special Delivery with my oval framelit. So I just chose one that fit well. And then on that same platform, I'm actually going to place a piece of basic black cardstock with a little bit larger oval so that I can create a border for this one. The one thing I love about the Big Shot is if you're using different framelits, you're actually able to place several pieces on the platform at one time. And then just crank once. Clear mat over the top, and then I'm just going to crank it through. Any cracking and popping that you hear is completely normal from the rollers inside the Big Shot. So now we have our greeting and we have our layer. I'm going to go ahead and adhere these two pieces together. So I'm going to put some snail adhesive on the back, and I'm just going to center that right here on that oval. And then I'm going to flip that over, and I'm going to add some dimensionals to the back. And again, I'm going to balance these because I know this is going to be open and closed quite a bit and quite possibly going to be mailed. So I'm going to take those off. This is going to get centered right here in the middle of our panel. All right. Next step is going to be to put a panel here. Now I've cut some designer series paper, again, all from the same packet. Isn't this pretty? And I've chose Old Olive just to create a layer for it. Some adhesive on the back. And then I'm going to layer that here. This time adhesive is only going to go in this upper panel because we need this crease in order to close the card. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my tear and tape because I know it's going to be open and closed quite a bit, and I want to make sure that my adhesive is strong enough. When you're laying this down, I want you to be careful that you don't put the adhesive all the way to the edge, because you can see here that we actually are going to have a small border of that white showing. So tear and tape is a wonderful thing because you can literally place the tape down and then just tear the edge. So I'm going to do that on these 3 sides. Again, leaving a little bit of room near the edge so I'm not too close. And I'm going to do the same thing here at the top. I'm going to burnish that tape down. I want to make sure that paper backing is pressed in really well so that when I go and take off that paper backing to reveal the other sticky side, that it doesn't pull the tape off at the same time. So I'm going to remove that here and here. And then one more. My paper piercing tool helps me get right up underneath there. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I'm just leaving a border looking so that it's fairly even to the other side. So I'm going to press. So you're going to see now how the bottom is still free. All right, this panel here is what's going to need to be closed. So we're going to need to put some tape here as well. And again, I'm a big fan of tear and tape. I'm going to bring in my silicone mat for this because I want to keep my tear and tape fairly narrow so I can get everything I need to inside the pocket. But I'm also going to need it here as well. So I'm going to attach this piece first. So I'm going to put tear and tape here to hold that back side down. And this should be flush to the other folded edge. So you can come a little bit closer to the edges on this one. Again, I'm going to burnish that paper backing right down inside. I'm going to take my paper piercing tool and I'm going to lift off that paper to reveal the other sticky side. Paper piercing tool is one of those things in my stamp studio that is a beloved accessory. I've used this to pick up everything from sequins to glue dots and of course to remove the paper backing. All right, so all I'm going to do now is I'm going to fold this panel right down on top of this one, and that's going to seal the back. So here we have our flap, and all we're going to do now is we're just going to put a small amount of tape right here at the bottom. This is even a little bit wider than you probably will want, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a tip. I'm going to start over here and I'm going to do only half. Do you see how I have my silicone mat here at the bottom? The great thing about the silicone mat is nothing sticks to it. So again, I'm burnishing this down. The adhesive that lands on it actually will just repel that work surface. Isn't that great? So it doesn't get your table all sticky. And then this extra, watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to fold it back up on top of itself. That allowed me to get a thinner strip of tape right here. And then I'm just going to bring down my corner and adhere it. Make sure you don't go all the way to the tip here. All right, so now we've got our pocket, but let's decorate this because I thought that was a little naked. So all I did was I cut another panel of designer paper, again from that same series, and I'm gonna bring in my trimmer, and this time instead of the scoring blade, I'm gonna use the cutting blade, and I'm gonna cut it on a diagonal. So I'm measuring those tips into the cutting track just like I did when I scored, and then I'm gonna slice, so now I've got 2 equal pieces. And then I'm going to use snail adhesive. I'm going to bring this in because I've got some pointy corners there. And I'm going to be a little bit more generous than I have been in the past because I want to make sure that this is not going to lift. It's going to be in an area that's used quite a bit. So here we are in our pocket, and I'm going to place one panel down inside of here. Again, you're going to see that we have a little bit of a border. And I'm going to choose another piece that's going to go right at the top. And that's going to be here. The dimensions for this project are all really, really simple. So I'm going to lay this one here as well, looking to mimic that border the very best that I can. And there we go. So now we've got this. Okay, remember that card that we stamped? All right, that's going to go right inside our pocket. And I'm going to steal this gift card from my original one just to show you how this works. And look, isn't this adorable? Because this flap is mobile, look what's going to happen. It'll allow you to open and close it very easily. Isn't that fun? I created one more for you that I want to share, and this one is a non-holiday theme. Isn't this pretty? This uses the Petal Garden Designer Series paper. I added some ribbon, just kind of like a belly band to help keep it closed, and this is how this one pops up. I didn't opt to put a spare piece of paper in there as for the greeting, but you certainly can. Here's the one that we created together, the one I created before you joined me. I look forward to seeing you next week because guess what? I've got another variation on the same type of fold that I think you're going to really love with a swing panel. Make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss it. And also head over to my blog, lisasstampstudio.com. Would love to have you subscribe for my weekly newsletter or follow along. Thanks so much for joining me, everyone.